Chapter 246, Society is Unforgiving. Lu Jing returned. She said to the middle-aged woman, "I just talked to your daughter. She mentioned that the drop in her ranking 6 months ago was accidental. She thought you would comfort her, but instead, you scolded her. She felt very sad, thinking that she wasn't understood by you, and with no father around, the pressure on her is enormous. She hopes you won't scold her, as she is genuinely trying hard. Sister, I asked for her previous exam results from her teacher. Your daughter excels in science, has won 3rd prize in physics competitions, and is also at the forefront in Chinese. There's no doubt she will get into Beijing University in the future. Why are you still so strict with her?" The middle-aged woman asked. "Did my daughter really say that?" Lu Jing replied, "Of course. So, my daughter's illness is really something I forced out of her?" Hearing Lu Jing and others nodding, the middle-aged woman couldn't suppress it any longer. Tears streamed down her face, and she finally squatted on the ground, covering her face, crying bitterly. "Sister, don't think too much. This illness can be treated." Lu Jing went over to comfort her, asking Fang Hao to help lift the woman. However, the woman turned and hugged Fang Hao's thigh, crying and lamenting, "Men are all scoundrels. When you just came to Jiangdong City with nothing, I took you in. I sincerely loved you after marrying you, bought a house and car for you, even invested money to help you establish a company and manage it to make you earn money. But why, now that you have money, have you become so wicked? You're secretly looking for a secretary behind my back, even finding mistresses. You're simply inhuman. What you want, can't I provide? What secretaries and mistresses have, I also have. Just say it, and I can give it to you. You heartless person, why have I received no return for my efforts? Why are you so cruel to me? Sister, you've got the wrong person." Fang Hao was speechless. Lu Jing was also stunned. This was completely unexpected. Jianghua said, "Director Fang, endure it a bit. Let her cry, it's good for her to vent. She's not hugging your thigh, of course, you'd say that." Fang Hao shrugged, feeling like he had been implicated. The middle-aged woman cried for a full 15 minutes and hugged Fang Hao's thigh for the same duration. After venting her grievances, she still had some dignity left and remembered to apologize to Fang Hao. Feeling no embarrassment, Fang Hao said, "The cause has been found, the treatment plan is in place. What's left is for you to treat your daughter well. You're divorced, and she has no father. She's already suffered a lot. So, don't continue adding negative energy. You'll get annoyed, and your daughter will be even more distressed. I understand. For the sake of my daughter, I have to change myself. Thank you, Director Fang." The middle-aged woman nodded heavily, seeing Fang Hao so handsome, and she had been crying while hugging his thigh for so long, she felt like she was going to die of embarrassment. With a bow, she quickly left. "Director Jiang, let's end this consultation. Director Lu and I will go back first." Fang Hao proposed to leave. Jianghua said, We haven't even entered the consultation room yet. Alright, if the issue is resolved. Director Fang, you and Director Lu have come a long way. Let me treat you to a meal to express my gratitude. I have to invite you before you leave. You must treat us to a meal. You can't escape this one. But we really don't have time now. Next time, for such simple cases, you don't need to enter the consultation room. Don't look for us. That's too simple. Alright, let's do it this way. Director Lu, you're in charge of the instructions. I owe you this meal. Next time you both have time, you can set the time and place. Let's settle on the place first, at the Star Sea Hotel. Star Sea. I'll have to bring old Zhang along. Jianghua said to Fang Hao, let me tell you a little secret. Back then, during our gatherings, both old Zhang and Director Lu wanted to pay the bill first. Then, after a few times, they became familiar with each other and started flirting. That's great. Next time I go out to eat, I'll definitely invite both of them. Fang Hao was happy. Everyone was eager to pay the bill. They were really like-minded friends. Such friends, give me a dozen of them. Evening came. As Fang Hao was about to leave work, he saw Tian Tian and Jia Jia rushing in, calling him daddy in unison. It sounded affectionate. He was a bit surprised and asked, how did you two come here? Mom sent us. She said to come over and go home with you. Tian Tian explained that they looked around but didn't find anything interesting, so they decided to leave. Jia Jia, on the other hand, was different. She climbed onto Fang Hao's thigh, insisting that he pick her up and then hold her by the legs. Looking at Jia Jia, whom he had raised for 3 years, Fang Hao suddenly had the urge to snatch this child away, not giving her to Su Ro or Xingling Tian. But in the midst of this impulse, he also felt that it was unrealistic because this was not his child, and the parents had the right to refuse. Clocking out, Fang Hao walked out and saw that his wife was not wearing the clothes from Noon but a simple and loose home outfit. There was no Noon's enchantment, but there was a strand of plainness and tranquility. No earrings, no necklace, no adornments at all. Apart from that breathtaking face, she seemed quite ordinary. A woman adorns herself for the one she loves. This cunning woman truly wants to present her most beautiful side to her lover. Husband, come sit in my car. In the 4 years we've been together, the times you've sat in my car are few. This makes me quite ashamed. Now, I want to make up for it. Su Ro said, inviting Fang Hao to sit in her car. No need. I have my means of transportation now. Well, but ultimately, it's someone else's car. Isn't it the same for you? You belong to someone else too. You do know I'm your wife. But the car you drive doesn't belong to you at all. Do you also realize that you're my wife? Yet you willingly gave yourself to someone else and even paid for it. That's why we've reached the point of divorce. Husband, let's not talk about these things. Let's go home. Su Ro's expression dimmed, and she quietly got into her car, driving away. The 2 children followed Fang Hao to sit in the Mercedes, chatting and laughing, carefree. When Fang Hao returned home, he checked on his mother-in-law again. She was fine, but his mother-in-law insisted that Fang Hao help her with acupuncture. At the same time, she told Fang Hao about Su Ro's dressing up at noon. Su Ro, standing outside the door, heard her mother sell her out. Her brows furrowed. After Fang Hao came out, she asked, "How's my mom?" "Fine. How did your conversation go at noon?" "Husband, at noon, I went to see Yue Xia." Fang Hao took out his phone and showed her a photo, Su Ro and Xingling Tian together. The lie was easily exposed. You tracked me? Do you think I'm so bored? I don't need these things to prove that you're cheating. Do you think you're being discreet? Look, Jiangdong City is so big, you might run into someone familiar. Next time, find a more discreet place, like an out-of-town resort or something. The city center is crowded, and being seen by acquaintances might be disgusting. Husband. The 3 words, Lao Xiao Pei, made Su Ro feel like a shackle was tightening around her neck, making it difficult for her to breathe. Is it true that society does not tolerate such relationships? 2 more days. Fang Hao's tone was cold. He went out to smoke. Chapter 247, I'll bring your husband back. During dinner, Fang Hao's phone rang. After answering, he quickly took a few bites of food and said to his mother-in-law, "There's an emergency patient at the hospital, I need to go." "Husband, will you come back tonight?" Su Ro asked hurriedly. "Don't wait for me. You all go to bed early. I don't know how long I'll be busy." Fang Hao didn't explicitly say whether he would come back, grabbed his bag, and left. "Oh, Xiero, Fang Hao's job really doesn't suit you," said Zhou Fen, the mother-in-law, who also lost her appetite and put down her chopsticks. Su Buiyuan added, "You've only eaten a little. That won't do, you need to eat a bit more." Seeing that his wife really had no appetite, he said to Su Ro, "Fang Hao's job is indeed irregular. It doesn't suit you. Now it's a matter of whether the job is suitable or not. Whether it's suitable or not, what's the point? It's him insisting not to come back." Su Ro just ate a little rice, counting the bites almost mechanically, without much taste. However, she couldn't not eat because there were still 2 babies in her belly. Taking advantage of the absence of morning sickness, she tried to eat a bit more, digest a little more, or else everything might be thrown up later. Zhou Fen said, "From your tone, it seems that it's not suitable." Su Buiyuan quickly echoed, "Then find a more suitable one. Your mom and I both support you." "Dad, Mom, can we not talk about these topics during meals? Let's just eat in peace." Su Ro frowned, put down her chopsticks a bit forcefully. All right, we won't talk about it." Su Buiyuan knew he couldn't offend his daughter because what he did wasn't honorable. It was best to keep the peace. Su Ro picked up her bowl and chopsticks again, eating in small, elegant bites, as usual. In her heart, however, she was thinking that Fang Hao had left, but she couldn't go looking for that person. Otherwise, the situation at noon might happen again, and someone might take pictures and send them to Fang Hao's phone. She hated making choices. Why couldn't she have both men? After dinner, she went back to her room and called Zhou Yun to vent. During the conversation, they ended up talking about Fang Hao. Zhou Yun said she wanted to come over to find Fang Hao. Su Ro told her that Fang Hao had gone to the hospital and asked Zhou Yun to go there and find him. Are you quarreling with your husband again? He doesn't listen, and he went to the hospital. What do you want me to tell him? I don't know. I just hope he comes back and spends some time with me. Okay, I'll come over in a while, take a look at your husband. I think, for the sake of my face, he should give me a point or two. Don't overthink it, I'll bring your husband back tonight. Yeah, thank you, Sister Yun. In the meantime, at the hospital, Dr. Fang Hao quickly arrived at the surgical department. He encountered Dr. Lu Jing and inquired, "What emergency is this? Do you know the person involved?" Dr. Lu Jing swiftly provided the information. "It's Mr. Jiang Qiusheng. Do you remember him? The philanthropist. His surgery was half successful, half unsuccessful, and the hospital over there can't guarantee success in another surgery. So, Mrs. Jiang urgently transferred him here, thinking that they used your plan. That's why they are looking for you to come up with a solution." Dr. Lu Jing shared the details and reminded, "Fang Hao, if you can help Mr. Jiang Qiusheng recover, it will be beneficial for you." "Alright, I'll go up and take a look. This is the surgical department, not our territory." Fang Hao expressed his displeasure, as his proposed surgical plan had been disregarded, and the case was moved to a larger hospital in Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou. Out of consideration for Dr. Lu Jing, he refrained from leaving immediately and went upstairs with her. Dr. Fang Hao, the tall middle-aged gentleman over there is Huang Yidao. I didn't expect him to come in person, Dr. Lu Jing pointed out as they entered the patient's room, emphasizing that Huang Yidao would be the main surgeon in the surgical department in the future. So, that person is the renowned surgeon from the capital, Huang Yidao. Fang Hao took note, as he had watched several of Huang Yidao's surgical videos, but most of the time, he only saw a pair of hands in action, not the person himself. In the hospital room, there was also a woman, Mrs. Jiang. "Dr. Fang, please take a look at my husband." Mrs. Jiang hurried forward upon seeing Fang Hao. "I'm not the director now, just an ordinary doctor." Fang Hao looked at Yang Wenjin and then proceeded to examine Mr. Jiang Qiusheng. Mr. Jiang, lying on the hospital bed with an oxygen mask, appeared either unconscious or asleep, with closed eyes and a very pale complexion. Fang Hao checked his pulse and took a quick postoperative photo. After a few minutes, he had a clear understanding. He turned to Yang Wenjin and said, "Director, should we discuss this here or in the consultation room?" "Let's discuss it here. Quickly, tell me, can my husband be saved?" "I'm so anxious," Mrs. Jiang pleaded. Yang Wenjin nodded, indicating Fang Hao to continue. "Feel free to speak." Fang Hao explained, "The critical issue for the patient now is the absence of one kidney. We need to promptly place the excised kidney back in place." He looked at Huang Yidao. Huang Yidao asked, "There's a challenge. Placing it back may compress the original surgical wound, causing bleeding. Dr. Fang, do you have any way to overcome this?" "There won't be any compression," Fang Hao replied. He turned to Mrs. Jiang and said, "If you agree to the surgery, go sign the consent form. We'll revive the kidney, and tonight we'll transplant it into your husband's body." "What's the success rate of the surgery?" "Any surgery carries risks. If you trust our provincial people's hospital, then sign. I'll perform the surgery. Otherwise, you can transfer to another hospital. You have 5 minutes to consider." Without paying attention to Mrs. Jiang, Fang Hao walked out. "Fang Hao, why are you speaking like this? Apologize to Mrs. Jiang." Yang Wenjin shouted at Fang Hao. At this moment, Huang Yidao said, "Mrs. Jiang, please sign. Let Dr. Fang perform the surgery." Fang Hao hesitated for a moment, then looked back at Huang Yidao. Mrs. Jiang asked, "Dr. Huang, aren't you going to be the lead surgeon?" "If I were confident, I wouldn't have transferred here. Dr. Fang's confidence surpasses mine. I trust my instincts." Huang Yidao nodded slightly at Fang Hao. "Dr. Fang, I request to assist you in this surgery." Fang Hao glanced at Dr. Lu Jing, and she said, "Dr. Huang as the first assistant, and I'll be the second assistant." Fang Hao nodded, checked the time, and said, "Let's proceed with preoperative preparations. 10 minutes after reviving the kidney, we'll start the kidney transplant surgery." With that, he walked towards the operating area, and Dr. Lu Jing quickly followed. In a hushed tone, she asked, "Why are you so assertive this time? It's not like your usual style. That woman is only causing trouble. She's lost her composure. All her doubts are hindrances. We need to make decisions for her. Moreover, if we delay further, the patient's condition will worsen. With the kidney out of the body for too long, there's a risk of rejection or functional delayed response after transplantation, among other complications. In an even lower voice, Dr. Lu Jing asked, "What about Yang Wenjin? She's present, you know? She only cares about Zhou Long, ignore her. Now that I don't have an official position, what can she do to me?" "That's true. So, back to the surgery itself, are you confident?" "Yes." Fang Hao continued walking, and his phone rang. Surprisingly, it was a call from Zhou Yun. He frowned, abruptly disconnected the call, and then turned off his phone. Chapter 248, Give Her a Chance. In the shadow of the surgical lights, Fang Hao looked at Huang Yidao, Lu Jing, and the others. They all nodded slightly, conveying the assurance that everything was ready. This surgery was merely a continuation of the previous one, but due to the earlier procedure being only half successful and the patient being transported from a distant location, it added to the complexity. Jiang Qiuxing had an early tumor lesion in his body that required excision. However, the tumor was located precisely in the middle of the spine and the kidney, making it impossible to operate due to the lack of visibility. Fang Hao's plan was to remove the external kidney, expose the diseased tissue, excise the tumor, and then transplant the kidney back. This bold plan was accepted by the patient's family, but they didn't trust Fang Hao. Instead, they transferred the patient to a major hospital in Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou, seeking experts for the surgery. However, things didn't go as planned, and the patient eventually returned to Fang Hao's hands. The surgery lasted for an hour and then concluded. During the suturing process, Fang Hao handed over the task to Huang Yidao, observing his operation closely to learn a few techniques. To his surprise, Huang Yidao's operation was incredibly accurate, swift, and skilled. Fang Hao thought, the capital's blade is indeed formidable. However, in reality, Huang Yidao held Fang Hao in high regard, especially in terms of surgical skills. At least in the operation at hand, Fang Hao surpassed him. The young are truly formidable. After watching Fang Hao wash his hands in just a couple of steps and leave, Huang Yidao turned to Lu Jing and remarked, "Director Fang seems not very talkative." Lu Jing replied, "Fang Hao has been quite busy lately. He might be tired and not in the mood to talk." "Director Huang, when are you taking office? If I had known that your provincial people's hospital had such excellent surgeons, I wouldn't have agreed to come here." Huang Yidao sighed and continued, "Director, your hospital director suggested I start tomorrow." Lu Jing, who trained Director Fang so well? He taught himself. "Do you believe that?" "I don't." Huang Yidao blurted out, but sensed that Lu Jing wasn't joking. He asked, "Director Huang, when will you take office? If he can achieve this level through self-study, how is that possible? He must have secretly performed many surgeries, right?" "No, this surgery is one of the few that he has personally led." Lu Jing smiled and said, "I've recommended him as a candidate for the hospital director. You must support him a lot." "Hospital director candidate?" Huang Yidao furrowed his brows. Fang Hao's surgical skills were indeed exceptional, but he seemed a bit too young for such a position. When Fang Hao left the hospital, it was already past 10 at night. Instead of returning to his in-laws' villa, he went to his rented apartment. Just after showering, he heard a knock on the door. Upon opening it, he found Zhou Yun. "Is it you? What are you here for?" Fang Hao stood at the doorway, preventing her from entering. "Not letting me in, is there a young lady hiding inside? Afraid I'll tell your wife?" Zhou Yun smiled, walked forward, and her chest pressed against Fang Hao. 3 seconds later, she noticed Fang Hao stepping back, allowing her to enter with a sense of accomplishment. This young man has a sturdy physique. She entered the apartment, which was a 2-bedroom, 1 living room layout. The place was a bit messy, indicating that Fang Hao had recently moved in and hadn't had time to tidy up. "You must be curious how I know you live here. In fact, I've been waiting for you at the hospital. As soon as you came out, I called you but found your phone was off. Since you didn't notice me, I had to follow you. I have some connections with the developer of this apartment, so I checked the surveillance and found your floor and room." Fang Hao furrowed his brows, looking at Zhou Yun warily. "What do you want from me?" "I've already replied to your message. I won't treat your migraines anymore because you and Su Rou were accomplices, and I detest Su Rou, let alone Xingling Tian. You're a doctor. Moral coercion won't work on me. I said I won't treat you, so I won't. Men are lustful, women admire strength. Weren't you all captivated by Xingling Tian? Let him treat you." Fang Hao knew about Xingling Tian and not just with one woman. His wife, Su Rou, was one, the university belle Zhou Jiejia was another, and the beautiful judge Qingyu was also involved. Zhou Yun now appeared as a beautiful woman. In her younger days, she must have been even more stunning. Could she have escaped Zheng Lingtian's clutches? As Zhou Yun took on the role of the chairwoman of the Jiulong group, not being Zheng Lingtian's woman, how could he trust her? Fang Hao continued, I don't know why you came to find me, and I don't want to know. It's late, you can leave. I need to rest. This young man has quite a stubborn temper. Su Rou, no wonder you couldn't manage him. Zhou Yun said, Fang Hao, you should calm down now. Xiao Rou genuinely loves you, and the child in her belly is yours. You should give her a chance. What's this? Are you here to mediate? Well then, why not go and convince Zheng Lingtian to marry Su Rou? Then Su Rou will sign the divorce papers. Oh, my wife is cheating on me, and she even asks me to wait until she finds a replacement lover before agreeing to divorce. What a joke. Fang Hao sneered, opened a folding chair, gesturing for Zhou Yun to sit. He also opened a bottle of water and took a seat. He made a gesture of invitation, signaling her to begin telling her story, and he would listen. I have my bottled water, you can tell me your story. Come on, Fang Hao, you're going too far. Zhou Yun furrowed her brows, crossing her arms over her chest, feeling a bit chilly. Fang Hao's tone remained cold as he said, not talking? Afraid I'll find it perverse? No, my values are perfectly normal. Actually, coming to persuade me, why not go persuade Zheng Lingtian to marry her? Then Su Rou will sign the divorce papers. Oh, my wife is cheating on me, and she even asks me to wait until she finds a replacement lover before agreeing to divorce. What a joke. Su Rou won't leave you. I know her character, she won't agree to a divorce with you. Even if it's Lingtian, in fact, Lingtian is not likely to marry her. Ironic. Chapter 249, Unbearable Past. Zhou Yun wasn't bothered by Fang Hao's sarcasm. Since Fang Hao learned about the affair between Su Rou and Zheng Lingtian, she had a premonition that many things would come to light. If she encountered a more timid man, perhaps she could intimidate him into assuming his wife was having an affair. In her board of directors, there were such men. When their wives discovered their affairs or they discovered their wives' affairs, they chose to pay to settle the matter, with everyone going their separate ways. But Su Rou's husband, Fang Hao, was a handsome, intelligent, and upright man. He refused to be betrayed by his wife and insisted on getting a divorce. What's even more challenging was that Su Rou had fallen in love with Fang Hao and was unwilling to divorce him. With both parties grappling, a winner must emerge. Zhou Yun thought for a moment and said, Fang Hao, I can see that you also love Su Rou, in the past, present, and likely the future. Otherwise, you would have made a big fuss about this matter. Now you're giving Su Rou time to handle these things and make a choice. Do you also fantasize about her choosing you? Stop. In this situation, you're still advising me not to divorce Su Rou? The matter between Su Rou and me has nothing to do with an outsider like you. After a few sarcastic laughs, Fang Hao found that Zhou Yun was very patient. She remained calm even when he was angry, and his scolding had no effect on her. He also calmed down and looked at her. Fang Hao, I'm not an outsider because I made a deal with Su Rou. I will be the godmother to the child in her belly. So, I can't let the child be born without a father. You two can't divorce. If the child belongs to Su Rou and Zheng Lingtian, then I have no say in it. If it's mine, you can dismiss that thought. My child will have a stepmother to care for it, and it doesn't need a godmother. You're not worthy. Taking a sip of water, Fang Hao said, the matter between Su Rou and me is settled. No matter who tries to persuade us, it won't work. Those who haven't experienced hardships themselves shouldn't persuade others to do good. If you experience my hardships, you may not do good either. If you still want to stay here, talk about your affairs with Zheng Lingtian. Share what kind of person he is, what he did when he was young, what earth-shattering things he accomplished, how he met you, how he captivated you, how many years your relationship has lasted, and now that he's in poor health, how you two should break off certain things. Well, there's plenty of time tonight, so spill the details. Suddenly, Zhou Yun felt a stabbing pain in her head. She quickly pressed her temples and said, Fang Hao, quickly help me with this. My head is hurting again. But Fang Hao remained unmoved. Fang Hao, don't just sit there. Can't you see I have a headache? Quickly give me something for the pain. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. Unable to sit still, Zhou Yun slid off the chair and knelt on the floor. She continued massaging her temples, constantly inhaling cold air, making a distressed sound. Knowing that she had a headache, she knelt on the ground. Is this an experienced move? Fang Hao observed and judged whether Zhou Yun was genuinely in pain or pretending. She was a female chairwoman and undoubtedly had extraordinary qualities. Normally, she exuded the aura of a powerful woman and the temperament of a highly successful person. If she was truly in extreme pain now, there would certainly be some unknown aspects of her true self revealed. When a person returns to their true self, the previously disguised mask cannot be concealed. On the other side, Zhou Yun continued to experience intense pain. Her mouth emitted louder cries, her breathing became more rapid. Finally, she sat on the floor, even lying down, clutching her head with both hands and continuously pounding it. She pleaded, "Fang Hao, please help me relieve the pain. I can't bear it anymore, please." "So what if you can't bear it? Will you die from the pain? If you were really going to die from the pain, you would have died already." Fang Hao coldly observed, determined to see if there was an unknown aspect to Zhou Yun. Not getting relief, Zhou Yun's agony continued to intensify. She started rolling on the floor, knocking over a folding chair and rolling over it. Her summer shoes were kicked off in the process. As her dress rolled and folded, it contracted upwards, revealing the intimate silhouette beneath. It seems like real pain. Could she actually die from this pain? Fang Hao frowned. He stood up, intending to help Zhou Yun alleviate the pain. However, at this moment, Zhou Yun suddenly stopped rolling. The pain seemed to vanish. She slowly stood up, her cheeks flushed, and she gazed at Fang Hao with squinted eyes. Despite his sweat-drenched appearance and disheveled long hair, he exuded a wild charm. "Master, let your servant assist you in changing and serving you." Zhou Yun's voice became soft and gentle, resembling the appearance of a maidservant in a historical drama or a role-playing character in certain films. Fang Hao was stunned, thinking he misheard. But then he remembered something. He furrowed his brow, took a step back, and said, "Chairwoman Zhou, you've taken this joke too far. Please leave." He hurriedly went to open the door. However, Zhou Yun rushed over, directly embracing Fang Hao from behind, saying, "Master, your servant hasn't served you yet, and you haven't satisfied your servant. Your servant won't leave." How did this person's personality change so drastically? Fang Hao was in a panic. He struggled to break free but found the woman behind him holding on tightly, embracing him firmly. "So, the master likes it rough. Your servant will be a bit more untamed, then." Zhou Yun suddenly lifted Fang Hao and quickly retreated to the bedroom, both falling onto the bed together. Because it was a dreamscape bed, the two sank deeply into it. "Am I really going to be forced by her? Then I won't have the face to see anyone." Fang Hao broke free again, rushed to the nearby medical kit, quickly opened it, and took out a silver needle. When Zhou Yun pounced again, he swiftly moved, stabbing a specific acupoint on the side of her head. Zhou Yun's body went limp, immediately losing consciousness and falling onto Fang Hao. Fang Hao caught her and laid her on the floor. He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking about calling the emergency number or even considering reporting to the police. However, in this situation, he couldn't explain. Why did Zhou Yun's temperament change so drastically? How did she transform from a powerful businesswoman to a maidservant? Fang Hao was curious and decided to take Zhou Yun's pulse. He found her pulse racing like a sports car engine. Examining Zhou Yun's pupils, he noticed her consciousness was scattered. After a moment of contemplation, he began moving Zhou Yun onto the bed to prepare for acupuncture. After more than 10 minutes, the acupuncture session concluded. Zhou Yun slowly woke up, looked around the room, then at Fang Hao, and asked, "What happened to me just now?" Fang Hao replied, "You called me master, and you referred to yourself as a servant. What's going on with you? Did you sleep with me?" "No. Your condition scared me. There was no desire left." "Have you experienced something like this before?" "This is related to my past with Xingling Tian. Do you still want to know?" Zhou Yun's expression was dim, filled with helplessness, shame, and despair. Fang Hao's heart skipped a beat. He asked a few words that seemed to be spoken with a soulless voice. "Su Ro, will she also be like this?" Chapter 250, Second Persona? Zhou Yun didn't answer Fang Hao's question and left with a tired body. Fang Hao sat on the floor, leaning against the bedside, feeling defeated. Zhou Yun's current state indicated that, for a long period, she had been subjected to brainwashing, psychological manipulation, and some form of perverse training by Xingling Tian or other men. This had activated certain negative potentials within her body, eventually giving rise to a second persona. Considering Xingling Tian's perversions, he wasn't merely seeking a woman's body and emotions but likely took pleasure in controlling and playing with them. Fang Hao recalled the incident where Zhongling Tian sent his wife to model a small piece of clothing, eagerly awaiting her return for his enjoyment. This happened only once, but what other unknown incidents were there? Over the past 4 years, how many times had this occurred? What about 4 years ago? It was evident that Zhongling Tian's poison ran deep within his wife. There's no turning back now. With these thoughts, Fang Hao's heart grew cold. Sighing, he thought, that woman was already rotten to the core. Since she doesn't cherish herself, what does it have to do with me? Xiao Rou, come out for a moment. Upon receiving Yun Jie's message, Su Rou arrived at the entrance of the villa's courtyard, got into Zhou Yun's car, and inquired, Sister Yun, how is it going? Your husband had surgery. I waited for him for an hour, followed him to the rented apartment, and talked to him. He still has feelings for you, but he's currently angry. To completely eliminate any resentment, it will take time. Try to gain a bit more time, and he'll accept you again. Zhou Yun reported this, rubbing her temples. She added, your husband is a resolute person. Even when he saw me suffering a headache, he remained unmoved. I knew he wouldn't be easy to persuade. Let's take it step by step. Sister Yun, you look exhausted. Don't go back tonight, rest here. Su Rou's expression became somewhat pessimistic, losing hope. I can still go back. I'll try to talk to Fang Hao again another day. If there's progress, I'll let you know. After today, there are only 2 days left. I wonder if he will give me more time. 2 days? I'll try my best to get you some more time. Do your best. Su Rou got out of the car, facing the slightly cool night breeze. She walked into the house, holding her hands and hunching her shoulders. She saw her mother, who had seemingly appeared in the living room at some point, watching her. She said, Mom, why are you up? Zhoufan asked, is the person in the car your new lover? What are you talking about? That's Sister Yun. She went to the hospital to see my husband for a headache, but she didn't receive treatment. She wants to arrange another meeting. Besides, she found out that my husband had just rented an apartment outside, so she told me. Zhoufan looked surprised and disappointed. Fang Hao actually rented an apartment and refuses to come home? My husband is stubborn. Then go accompany him. Tomorrow, let your dad take the little one to kindergarten. Mom, I'm going now. Su Rou's heart lifted. She grabbed her bag and left. After more than 10 minutes, she arrived at the apartment complex. She knocked on the door, but there was no response. Is my husband asleep, or is he deliberately not opening the door? Su Rou continued knocking. Failing to get a response, she considered whether to call the property management or the landlord to come and open the door. At this moment, the elevator door made a sound. Su Rou saw her husband, Fang Hao, coming out. Fang Hao froze, standing there. He thought he was seeing things, blinked, and confirmed that it was his wife. Once certain, he furrowed his brow lightly and asked, What are you doing here? Wife, I came to help you get the keys. Su Rou, seeing Fang Hao carrying a stack of books on neurology, brain structure analysis, and other highly specialized titles, noticed that they were borrowed from the provincial library based on the labels. My husband went to the library to borrow books, and he's still in the mood for reading. It seems that his conversation with Sister Yun didn't involve anything profound. Su Rou breathed a sigh of relief in her heart and said, Husband, you don't need to push yourself so hard. Take care of yourself, balance work and rest. She took the key from Hao's small bag and opened the door. Many things in the room looked familiar, either brought from the hospital dormitory or moved from our marital home. However, they were all Hao's personal belongings, with hardly any imprint of mine. Does my husband really need to separate things so clearly? Does he really want to draw a line between us? Su Rou's heart grew dimmer as she looked around, feeling a strong sense of reluctance and unwillingness. Hao put down his books, tidied up the foreign papers on the printer, realized there was no paper, replaced it with a new one, and continued printing. He said, I'm fine here, you can go back. I'll stay with you tonight. Tian and Jia Jia have their grandparents looking after them. You don't have to worry. Tomorrow, Dad will take them to kindergarten, or I'll come back early. Stop it, Su Rou. Do you really not understand, or are you pretending to be confused? I moved here because I don't want you back in my life. In the future, I'll live here with Tian. Oh, now that you know the place, I'll move out soon and find a new house. I don't want you in my life or world anymore. Hao said calmly, dealing with shameless women like his wife, getting angry would only encourage them. She's pregnant, and I can't physically harm her. Husband, you said you'd give me 3 days, so we're still legally husband and wife now. Let me stay to take care of you, isn't that reasonable? I don't need you. No, you do. How can a big man like you not need anyone? Husband, if you reject me, I'll sit outside all night. There are your twin babies in my belly, are you going to cruelly mistreat us, a mother and 2 infants? You. Suro, can you have some shame? You cheated on me, betrayed me and the family. I want a divorce, I want to leave you. Let you pursue your happiness. Why are you still so stubborn? I have no shame. I'm sorry for what I did to you. So, in these limited 2 or 3 days, I'll try my best to fulfill my wifely duties. Husband, let me treat you well. Husband, I love you, let me help you release. Suro approached and hugged Fang Hao, attempting to undo his belt. Fang Hao resisted, but she stubbornly held onto his hand, confronting him. You slut, go find that old pervert of yours. Don't disgust me here. I'm not going anywhere tonight. I'll stay here with my husband. You said you'd give me 3 days, so we're still husband and wife. Couples can do what couples do. Suro persisted, unwilling to let go. But I don't want to. Just thinking about you with that old man makes me sick to death. Do you think I would still touch you? Suro, you make me sick, you know that? I'm sorry, husband, I was wrong. We won't do anything tonight. Let's talk about how to take care of Jia Jia and Tian Tian in the future. I'm Tian Tian's mother too, and I have the right and obligation to care about his growth and education. Suro's enthusiasm faded, and she let go, stepping back. She glanced at her small bag and said, Husband, you're sweating. Go take a shower, I'll pour you a glass of water and tidy up the room, then we can talk. We'll only discuss our son's education, nothing else. Don't even think about it. Fang Hao entered the bathroom with his clothes, locking the door behind him. He was afraid Suro would follow, making things difficult for him. Little did he know that outside, his wife took out a small bottle from her bag and dropped 2 colorless and odorless drops into Fang Hao's water cup. This substance was provided by Qingyu. Initially, they planned to incapacitate Fang Hao and obtain his DNA. However, Qingyu opted for a more aggressive approach, directly causing someone to break Fang Hao's nose and obtain blood samples. Now it seemed unnecessary, and she hadn't had the chance to dispose of it. Unexpectedly, it came in handy today. Husband, tonight I must have you.